Welcome to your first year at Hogwarts. This here is the Great Hall, and Mr. Filch has once again asked me to remind you that there is to be no eating or drinking here. Please turn off your muggle cell phones, as they are a distraction of both light and sound, and really are nothing more than trinkets created by non-magical folk. The best way to communicate with others will always be by owl. If, for some reason, we need to leave the Great Hall, this door on the left leads to the classrooms, dormitories, and random hallways. Watch out for the moving staircases. The door on the right leads to the castle grounds. I believe Professor Trelawney would now like to give you all a brief description of her divination class.
Hello everyone, welcome to Hogwarts. I am Professor Trelawney, your divination teacher. In divination class, we learn how to use our mind's eye to see into the future. Not everyone has the gift of sight, so we will find out if you do. Some people use a crystal ball to look into the future, but my favorite way is to read tea leaves. What do I see? What do I see? You have some homework you forgot to do. Did you see a dog today? You will. Oh, it's best you don't know. Other seers look to the stars to see into the future. We can change our enchanted ceiling here in the Great Hall so that we can see all the stars in our night sky. Nox! Oh, look at the time. Divination class goes by so quickly. It is time for me to take my leave of you. But I leave you in the capable hands of the astronomy professors, who will take you on a tour of the night sky. I will see you in class. Goodbye! Hello, everyone. Today, two of our passions, astronomy and Harry Potter, will come together. We'll observe the sky and track down stars and constellations whose names J.K. Rowling used for the characters in her books. A Harry Potter astronomical marathon, if you will. Along the way, we'll meet some constellations and perhaps make up a few of our own, and learn some of the mythology associated with our incredible sky. Today, we will be starting with our summer sky. Low in the summer sky during the summer is the constellation Sagittarius the Archer. He's traditionally drawn as a centaur, a creature that is half man, half horse. We Harry Potter fans are familiar with centaurs. Hagrid is friendly with many of the centaurs who live in the Forbidden Forest. Several times during their Hogwarts career, Harry and his friends are saved by centaurs, particularly the centaur named Firenze, who seems to have a soft spot in his heart for humans. In Book 5, Firenze replaced Professor Trelawney as a divination teacher, but this centaur is also a talented astronomer. Firenze is the Italian name for the city of Florence in Italy. A very famous and respected astronomer, Galileo, is buried in Florence. Overhead is the constellation Cygnus the Swan. Imagine the stars creating a large cross in the sky, the swan's body stretching out along here, and the wings out to the sides. J.K. Rowling included Cygnus in the Black family tree as Sirius Black's great-grandfather. The swan's beak is marked by Alberio, a beautiful double star. The two stars are easy to separate with a telescope, through which you'll see one blue and one orange-colored star. Both stars lie about 380 light-years away from us. The swan's tail is the bright star Deneb. It is a very bright, blue-white supergiant star lying more than 3,000 light-years away, which makes it the most distant of all first-magnitude stars. In the lower wing of this graceful bird are the remains of a cataclysm. A large star exploded as a supernova perhaps 50,000 years ago.
its light was probably seen by our ancient ancestors here on Earth. All that remains is the Veil Nebula, part of a larger complex nebula. In clear skies, the Veil Nebula can be seen with binoculars or a small telescope, but the whole nebula is best seen on photograph. Deneb is one star of 3 bright ones that form the Summer Triangle. Its partners are Vega and Altair. Altair is the brightest star in the constellation Aquila, the Eagle. Within the Harry Potter books, the Ravenclaw mascot is an eagle. However, using some imagination, we can change the eagle into a 3-headed dog, Fluffy, who protects the Sorcerer's Stone. We can pretend that these 3 stars are the heads of this ferocious dog. Vega is the brightest star in Lyra, the harp. The harp is in the sky, of course, to provide music to soothe the savage beast that is Fluffy. We've taken a look at the summer sky. Now, Dumbledore will show us some of the constellations in the fall sky.
Thank you, Professor. High overhead are 4 stars in the shape of a square. They mark the body of the flying horse Pegasus. Astronomers appropriately named this group of stars the Great Square of Pegasus. Using our imagination, we can group any stars we want to, play connect the dots, and create new star pictures. The stars of Pegasus can therefore be transformed into Buckbeak the Hippogriff. Perhaps he's hiding in the Forbidden Forest or preparing to whisk Sirius Black away from the tower and escape the Ministry of Magic yet again. Throughout time, constellation stories were created along with their pictures, and these stories were passed down by word of mouth. Often the stories included a moral lesson to be learned. With that in mind, perhaps Buckbeak is in the sky to remind us of the time the Hogwarts students first met the beast. Draco Malfoy boldly advanced upon this new creature, only to be slashed at by the Hippogriff. We should all remember to tread carefully and show respect when we meet someone for the first time. One corner star of the Great Square of Pegasus actually belongs to an adjoining constellation, Andromeda the Princess. In Greek mythology, she was chained to a rock in the ocean as a sacrifice to the sea monster Cetus. This was punishment for her mother, who boasted that Andromeda was more beautiful than the sea nymphs. Nearby is Andromeda's rescuer, the hero Perseus. Within the boundaries of the constellation Andromeda is the farthest object we can see while using just our eyes, the Andromeda Galaxy. This is a spiral galaxy similar to the Milky Way but larger. On a clear, dark night, it can be seen by the naked eye as an elongated smudge. This is really only the central part of the galaxy, and larger telescopes are needed to see any trace of the spiral arms. Here we have an image of the Andromeda Galaxy. Lying about 2.2 million light years away, the Andromeda Galaxy is the largest galaxy near to us. In the Harry Potter universe, you might think of these constellations as other characters. Perhaps, instead of Perseus and Andromeda, you see Hermione and Ron. One of my favorite constellations can be found in this sky as well. Here we can see the constellation of Triangulum, the triangle. However, I like to imagine it as the symbol of the Deathly Hallows. The Elder Wand creates a line in the middle, the Resurrection Stone a circle, all encapsulated by the triangular representation of the invisibility cloak. We've explored the constellations and celestial objects of the fall sky. Now Trelawney will guide us through the winter sky.
The winter evening sky has more bright stars than any other time of year. Centered among them is the well-known constellation Orion, the Hunter. 3 bright stars mark his belt. 2 are his shoulders, and 2 more are his knees. In Greek mythology, Orion was the son of Poseidon, the sea god. He was supposedly killed by the sting of a scorpion. The magical world created by J.K. Rowling, Orion is the name of Sirius Black's father. According to the Black family tree, he died around the time of Lord Voldemort's first rise to power. No other information is available. Orion is a huge constellation standing in the sky, so perhaps he reminds you of Hagrid, the Hogwarts gamekeeper. As befitting his job as care of magical creatures professor, it seems appropriate that Monoceros, the unicorn, is standing nearby. Underneath him is the constellation of Canis Major, or the Big Dog. This is fitting, as Hagrid's dog Fang is never far from him. Muggles, astronomers, use telescopes to look deep into space. One of the stars below Orion's belt is not a star. It really is a giant cloud of gas and dust where stars are being born. Using the Hubble Space Telescope, the Muggles have found that some of the stars in the Orion Nebula are surrounded by clouds of gas and dust. New planets and solar systems are being formed there. Off to the side of Orion is the brightest star in the heavens, Sirius itself. The star lies in the constellation of Canis Major, one of Orion's hunting dogs. For this reason, it is also called the Dog Star. J.K. Rowling chose this star's name for Harry's godfather because of Sirius Black's hidden talent of being able to transform into a large dog. The bright star in Orion's foot is Rigel. The name comes from the Arabic language. Rigel translates as leg. Rigel is a blue giant star. Star colors tell us about their surface temperatures. Blue stars are the hottest at about 60,000 degrees. When they expand, they cool down to about 3,000 degrees and glow red. In between are stars like our sun, a yellow star with a surface temperature of about 10,000 degrees. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Maybe Macbeth should have consulted the Witch Head Nebula. This nebula, shaped something like a witch's head, is associated with the bright star Rigel in the constellation Orion. The Witch Head Nebula glows primarily by light reflected from the bright star Rigel, located just off the upper right edge of the full image. Fine dust in the nebula reflects the light. The blue color is caused not only by Rigel's blue color, but because the dust grains reflect blue light more efficiently than red. The same process causes Earth's daytime sky to appear blue, although the scatterers in Earth's atmosphere are molecules of nitrogen and oxygen, not dust. The nebula lies about 1,000 light-years away. In Orion's shoulder is Betelgeuse. That's an Arabic word sometimes translated as armpit of the giant. Betelgeuse is a red giant star. Its color means that it's on the cooler side as stars go. Its surface temperature is about 3,000 degrees. Betelgeuse is also one of the largest stars we know of. If we could bring Betelgeuse back to our solar system and put it where our sun is, the outer layers of this supergiant star would reach past the orbits of Mercury, Venus, and Earth. The star at the upper right corner of Orion is Bellatrix, a Latin word which signifies a female warrior. That's a perfect name for Sirius Black's cousin Bellatrix Lestrange, the militant follower of the Dark Lord. How unfair that the celestial representations of Sirius and his murderer lie so close to each other in the sky. Here you can see a pretty cluster of stars known as the Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters. In Greek myth, the Pleiades were the daughters of the god Atlas. Most of them had offspring with immortals as befitted their divine status, and therefore glimmer proudly in the sky borne by their father. Only one married a mortal, the one named Merope. For the shame that this brought her and her family, her star was dimmed. She is a fitting namesake for poor Merope Gaunt, Tom Morvolo Riddle's mother, who brought similar shame to her pure-blood family by running off with a muggle. When you and I look at the Pleiades, we usually see 6 stars. A pair of binoculars will show you a few dozen stars, and the largest telescopes we have counted about 250 stars in that cluster. We'll bring up a picture showing you a closer look at the Pleiades. All these stars were born from the same nebula, the same cloud of gas and dust in space. Astronomers believe these stars are quite young, only about 100 million years old. That means they were formed during the time of the dinosaurs here on Earth. Above Orion is the constellation of Gemini, the twins. In Greek mythology, they were the brothers Castor and Pollux, one who was human and one who could live forever. When Castor died, Pollux asked the gods how they could be together forever. The gods responded by putting them in the sky where they can never be separated. The Romans believed these 2 stars were Romulus and Remus, founders of the city of Rome and the sons of the war god Mars. J.K. Rowling, when she drew up the Black family tree, included Pollux Black among Sirius's ancestors. If we could rename all the constellations based on our favorite series of books and movies, perhaps we should rename this one Fred and George Weasley. We saw quite a few characters in the constellations of the winter sky. Let's now take a look at what we can find in the spring sky.
The most prominent constellation we can see in the spring evening sky is Leo the Lion. The lion, of course, is the mascot of the Gryffindor house. The star in his front paw is Regulus, a white-hot star 69 light-years away from our planet Earth. The name Regulus means the little king or little prince in Latin, a perfect name for Sirius's younger brother, the favored child who upheld the family honor. Can't you just see Sirius's parents proudly calling his brother our little king while referring to Sirius himself as the mangy dog? The sky, however, attests to the truth. The star of Sirius we saw in the winter sky far outshines the star of Regulus. You may remember from reading the books that Harry Potter was born on July 31st. If you subscribe to ancient astrology, that would make him a Leo. Below Leo, the constellation Hydra represents a fearful, multi-headed serpent that kept sprouting 2 new heads every time one was cut off. For such an impressively hideous monster, the stars that make it up are nevertheless quite dim. All except for one, Alphard, whose name means the solitary one in Arabic. The name Alphard shows up in the history of Sirius Black's family. Sirius's uncle Alphard showed solitary support for Sirius by giving him a decent bit of gold, and his name was consequently blasted off the family tapestry. To the left of Hydra, we'd like to point out 2 bright stars, Spica and Arcturus. In Potter mythology, Arcturus Black was Sirius's great-great-grandfather. In our modern times, the stars of Spica and Arcturus are in separate constellations. Spica is the only bright star in Virgo, the maiden. Arcturus is the brightest star in the constellation Boötes, the herdsman. If we take off the figure for Boötes, perhaps you'll see an ice cream cone. Arcturus is the tip of the triangle-shaped cone with a scoop of ice cream on top. We can also get rid of the drawing for Virgo and focus on the star Spica. In the wizard world, I hear they call these stars the broom. My ice cream cone forms the sweep or bristles. From Spica to Arcturus is the broom handle. If we look to the right of Spica, we can see the constellation Crater, the goblet. In Greek mythology, this cup was meant to bring water to the sun god Apollo. Only a cup that special could be compared to the Goblet of Fire, which selects the Triwizard Tournament opponents. Next to Boötes are two constellations, Corona Borealis and Hercules. We'll have to let time advance to get them fully in view. It's easy to imagine the stars of Corona Borealis as a crown that might be worn by an ancient Greek queen. Hercules is often found by looking for a cornerstone-shaped group of stars. These represent the body of the strong man. The Blackfoot tribe of North Dakota and Montana saw these stars as the spider god and his web. From above us, he watches over the land. Sometimes he climbs down the Milky Way to visit the Earth. On the new star chart we are creating, Corona Borealis now becomes Aragog, the giant spider raised in the Forbidden Forest by Hagrid. Kind of scary, isn't he? Fortunately, that's the only spider in our sky. We finished up the spring sky, and now we'll move on to our last sky, which you can see anytime by just looking to the north.
My turn again. Very well. Thank you, Professor. Some constellations in the northern sky can be seen all year round. They are called the circumpolar constellations because they circle the north celestial pole. The shape people usually look for in the northern sky is the Big Dipper. Many cultures have stories about these 7 bright stars. Some Native American tribes see a bear being followed by 3 hunters. Other cultures traditionally see a giraffe, or perhaps a wagon. However, the Big Dipper is not actually an official constellation. This is because it is part of a larger constellation called Ursa Major, which is Latin for Great Bear. Now, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you might not see a bear. If we take off the drawing and use our imaginations, you just might see Harry riding his broom during a Quidditch match. The middle star in the Dipper's handle is a double optical star pair. There is a bright star that's pretty obvious, but if you have good eyes, you can see a much dimmer star next to it. This is an optical double star pair, which means that when we look at them, we see 2 stars, but those 2 stars are not going around each other. They are 2 individuals separated by great distances. They just happen to lie along the same line of sight. Mizar and Alcor are the names of these 2 stars. To get a better view, we have a picture of these 2 stars. In Roman times, these 2 stars were used as an eye test. If you could see 2 stars instead of 1, your eyes were deemed good enough to get you drafted into the Roman army. The Big Dipper can guide us to the one nearly stationary star in our sky. drawing a line between the two stars in the cup of the dipper that are the farthest from the handle and continuing on out, you'll come to Polaris, the famous North Star. It is near the North Celestial Pole, and it appears to stand still while all the other stars circle around it. Polaris is the last star in the handle of the Little Dipper. In our newly created Potter constellations, Polaris now becomes the golden snitch that Harry is reaching for during a Quidditch match. The Little Dipper is also known as Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. However, I think it rather looks like a badger, much like our Hufflepuff mascot. Winding around the pole star is a constellation representing a snake-like dragon, Draco. This might remind you of the Hogwarts student Draco Malfoy. It seems that Draco Malfoy's mother decided to continue her family's tradition of using star maps as inspiration when choosing family names. She clearly expected that her son would be sorted into sneaky, snaky Slytherin house at Hogwarts. Speaking of Slytherin, the Draco constellation quite looks like the snake mascot of the house. We've got one last special treat before we have to say goodbye today. We've only gone through a few constellations today, but we can bring up all the constellations at once. Look at them all. Wonderful. You might see some shapes, animals, and people that remind you of characters from Harry Potter. We've guided you through some constellations and let you take a turn to find your own. And now, we have one final announcement for you. Thank you, everyone, for watching our show. You may now return to your dormitories. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll hope to see you again at Hogwarts. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.